galvanizing the African American vote in his favor. There are people who think it was something off the wall. I don't know if he had intentionally planned it that way, but it certainly helped to galvanize the black vote in the 2006 election.
8 months after Katrina, in May 2006, Nagin ekes out a second-term win and is charged with leading the massive recovery of New Orleans. But within a year into his second term, as little gets accomplished, frustration is growing across all areas of the city.
I think the black community, like the rest of the community, was disappointed in the pace of the recovery.
He was disengaged for the better part of his second term. I think he realized how big the rebuilding effort was. A lot of people can easily make the argument that he checked out probably sometime around late 2006, early 2007, that he had no interest anymore in governing, in being the mayor, in leading the rebuilding, that he was out for himself at that point.
Next on American Greed, with his city still in ruin, the mayor chooses to focus not on rebuilding for everyone, but for him.
Wasn't trying to help the city move forward. The only time he became personally engaged was when there was something in it for him personally or his family in the granite business.
Whoa, I feel good. Na 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 na. I knew that I would now. Na 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 na. I feel good. Na 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 na. I knew that I would. So good. I got you.
Hello, Dad.
Yeah, just getting back in my routine. I feel good.
With the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card, you earn 2% cash back on what you want, like first date plans and need.
No. Just my shoe.
Like maybe shoes without laces. The Wells Fargo Active Cash Card. That's real life ready.
Can an oven-roasted turkey breast pack so much succulent flavor that the mere glimpse of it induces turkey sandwich daydreams? If it's Hillshire Farm.
Oh, hell yeah. New Orleans, Louisiana, early 2007. About 18 months after Hurricane Katrina and the ensuing floods devastate the Big Easy, there is a growing discontent in the city about the slow pace of recovery. And most of the blame lands squarely on the shoulders of Mayor Ray Nagin.
There was a sort of righteous anger about him having sort of the city's collective feeling that he had been sort of mailing it in during a time when we needed a real leader.
Around the same time, New Orleans investigative journalist Gordon Russell begins digging into a story about Mayor Nagin's partial ownership of a granite company called Stone Age that was recently started by his two sons.
We were hearing that he was spending more time at this business and like a fair bit of time, and it seemed incredible that you would have a mayor who's faced with this incredible task of rebuilding the city after this amazing disaster, and he's, running a granite business. But on the other hand, a lot of people needed countertops, so that was strange. And we started looking into that a little bit more, and we got a few tips here and there, and then that led us to the Home Depot.
Russell learns that after Katrina, Home Depot was anxious to open a new store in the Central City neighborhood of New Orleans.
Kind of a tough neighborhood, plagued with some violence, a lot of poverty. This is the Superdome over on this side of you over here. You can see a lot of abandoned lots and kind of blighted housing around us. And then this is the Home Depot over here.
The company wants to purchase several streets from the city in order to build a store and parking lot there. And the city appraises the land at $850,000. Local community groups are also working with the city council to require Home Depot to hire a certain percentage of workers from the immediate area at a higher than normal wage. And for the company, this is an obstacle. That is, until Ray Nagin sees a business opportunity, according to former U.S. Attorney Matt Coleman.
Ray Nagin involved himself and actually left a voicemail for the CEO of Home Depot offering his assistance with the community group. At some point soon thereafter, Ray Nagin sent his chief economic development officer to a meeting at the city council and instructed her to tell both the community group as well as Home Depot that he would not support the community group's efforts anymore, and he wanted the project to go forward without any agreement between Home Depot and the neighborhood group.
And so, here in an overwhelmingly poor African American community, the mayor of his so-called chocolate city is accused of selling out those very citizens he promised to fight for. About 2 weeks later, Stone Age lands a contract with Home Depot to be the exclusive granite countertop installer for several of their stores.
They were obviously doing a lot of business at the time because everybody needed new homes, countertops included.
Nagin also agrees to sell Home Depot the city land for a significantly reduced price.
At first, Ray Nagin wanted the city to receive the full appraised value. At some point, we can only surmise, at some point, a light bulb went off, and Ray Nagin said. At that same time, he began to pursue Home Depot for his family-owned Stone Age business. He then changed his mind. He had a change of heart and agreed to that lower price of $100,000.
After securing the contract, Nagin sends emails to Home Depot executives about giving Stone Age more business.
When he felt they weren't getting enough work from their deal, he would complain, and he would send them a note saying, it would say from the mayor of New Orleans. It didn't say from Ray Nagin, this guy who owns a business. So he was definitely trading on the fact that he was the mayor.
He wanted and expected to receive approximately 10 to 20 jobs, countertop installation jobs per week from Home Depot. That would equate to approximately total $1 million per year in gross revenues. And his efforts to leverage and pressure them, he believed would be a huge windfall.
Stone Age ultimately does about $170,000 in business before Home Depot ends the contract because of poor performance and customer complaints. And that's when authorities say Ray Nagin goes looking for another illegal revenue stream. Next on American Greed, investigators begin to uncover the shocking extent of corruption at City Hall.
Like going to strip clubs, like paying for it with your city credit card, like having this yacht and inviting people and strippers out on it.
As the old order crumbles, chaos begins anew. Fate is shaped by our own hands. What future will you forge?
It's me, America's sweetheart, and I just love having a blast. But not do Baja Blast. Kids party? Having a blast. Stuck in an elevator? Having a blast. Winning.
That's supposed to be a glue.
Trophy already. Blast. I can have a blast anytime, anywhere.
It's a fucking styling gel. It's not a
Not do Baja
glue.
Blast. In stores everywhere.
I too am having a blast.
Invisible styling gel. What the fuck was wrong with me? Where was my eye? Why didn't I read
New Orleans
it?
Office of the Inspector General starts investigating the mayor's Office of Technology and its contract for a
And
problematic
bitch was
citywide
expensive
system of
too.
crime cameras.
Through that investigation that was conducted by our inspections and evaluations,
And that is a
they noticed some
credence place, not
discrepancies
a gel or glue. So this means I get no fucking glue.
quality of the cameras.
I
what
get
was
no
being
fucking
found.
glue.
There were just a lot of inconsistencies.
The contract is overseen by New Orleans Chief Technology Officer Greg Mefford, who was handpicked by Mayor Ray Nagin as soon as he took office in 2002, and who subsequently buys a home next door to the mayor.
He became one of the mayor's most trusted aides, and eventually, by the time of Katrina, he was kind of calling himself deputy mayor, which was a title of his own making, I think. But he was as powerful a guy in the city government as there was outside of the mayor.
I mean, these two are, for better or worse, they were the dynamic duo. I mean, these were the guys who came in and said, you know what, we're going to change City Hall, we're going to up technology. And Greg Mefford, almost from the start, it has now been proven, was out to enrich himself.
2 months after Katrina hit, Nagin had signed an executive order giving Mefford free rein to hand out technology contracts with no bidding required.
He literally gave the mayor's office of technology a license to steal. He signed an executive order for them to award contracts. I'm talking millions of dollars in contracts without a competitive bidding process, without layers of approval, without a review committee. And that's when the money started coming in.
Post-Katrina, Mefford awards several huge no-bid contracts, including the crime cameras, to his friend, private tech entrepreneur named Mark St. Pierre.
And with that, Mark St. Pierre became a millionaire. In turn, Mark St. Pierre at the same time was paying Gregory Mefford the hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes and kickbacks for his favorable treatment at City Hall.
After the Inspector General's office issues a scathing report on Mefford and St. Pierre's crime camera deal, it sparks an investigation involving the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI. Investigators learn that St. Pierre provides a credit card for Mefford's unfettered use, and Mefford appears to have no problem using it.
Gregory Mefford charged approximately $133,000 in trips, purchases, and other items. He was definitely living a life beyond his means as a public servant.
Greg Mefford had a card. The company paid it off. The company was being paid by the city of New Orleans. So we, the taxpayers, were paying for his lifestyle.
According to Inspector General Investigator Eduardo Hernandez, Mefford's lifestyle includes holding staff meetings at a local strip club and partying on a yacht called the Silicon Bayou, owned by Mark St. Pierre's company.
The things that would occur on the boat, they would have their normal meetings, but they would also have strippers come onto the boat. They would play poker. The boat was also used at various times by other city employees for someone's birthday party. It almost seemed like it was the mayor of technology's office for their own personal use for whatever they'd like to do.
Greg Mefford leaves the mayor's office of technology in 2006 and promptly begins receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in so-called consulting fees from his pal St. Pierre.
Gregory Mefford then collected approximately $647,000 in a series of checks that Mark St. Pierre wrote to him, and Gregory Mefford funneled through a different company. So in all, it was approximately $900,000 that Mark St. Pierre bribed and kicked back to Gregory Mefford over the term of their nefarious conduct.
In November 2009, Mefford and St. Pierre are charged with conspiracy, bribery, and money laundering in a 63-count indictment. As the charges are made public, the big question is, what is Ray Nagin's involvement? There are reports that Nagin accepted several lavish family vacations, as well as cell phones, lawn care, and other services paid for by Mark St. Pierre. But for now, no proof.
Ray Nagin did some things when they were in office that called a lot of things into question. You know, city vendors were paying for Ray Nagin to go on vacations. Ray Nagin claimed, I didn't know the city vendors were paying for me to go on vacation. Greg Mefford set this up.
Some of the records that were produced did show that Ray Nagin had some involvement, but at that point, we did not know the extent of that involvement.
When American Greed returns, so far Mayor Nagin is safe, but not for long.
After they went after Greg Mefford, they had their sights set on Ray Nagin.
See how New Orleans' music scene has bounced back after Katrina's devastation at AmericanGreed.cnbcprime.com. Feeling greedy? Want more than your share of behind-the-scenes dirt? Follow us at American Greed TV on Twitter. We'll be right back.
Did you know calcium in water amplifies hair damage, making it more prone to breakage? New Premiere by Kerastase. Dual Action Repair Hair Care with citric acid and glycerin. First, it frees hair from calcium buildup. Second, it reconnects broken links between keratin chains, restoring up to 99% of hair's original strength. Discover hair at its premier state. New Premiere by Kerastase.
Opportunities can be hard to find, like catching lightning in a bottle. In uncertain times, it's tempting to retreat or simply wait and see. At CME Group, we empower those who act. We deliver tools to help manage risk and capture opportunities in every market climate, across every major asset class, to seize each possibility at precisely the right moment. CME Group, opportunity is everywhere.
In 2010, 5 years after Hurricane Katrina, Mayor Ray Nagin's second and final term comes to an end. He has a dismal 24% approval rating.
The fact of the matter is you have a city as large as New Orleans, and you have everybody pulling you. We should have the street lights here first. We have our electricity here first. We should have the water purification here. And decisions have to be made. You can't cater to everybody all the time. So some people are going to get upset if you don't do it the way they want it done.
It seems for Nagin and his wife Salita, his last days in public office can't come soon enough.
She is ready to go, and I am too. I have been beaten on for almost 4 years, so that takes a toll.
Nagin moves with his family to Frisco, Texas, and begins collecting big consulting fees from some of the same vendors he awarded city contracts to as mayor. But if he thinks he's going to move on and leave New Orleans behind, he's very wrong.
You might start a case with some low officials. You might start a case with contractors, with non-appointed or elected officials. But the purpose, the intent is to get to the highest official. In this case, the highest official was Nagin.
Ray Nagin's former technology chief and closest advisor, Greg Mefford, is already under indictment for corruption. Accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes and kickbacks from city contractor Mark St. Pierre, who is also charged. Mefford has one card to play that might get him less jail time, and that is what he knows about Nagin.
Safe to say, in 2010, when Greg Mefford got indicted, it was probably the beginning of the end for Ray Nagin. It was when everything started to go downhill and started picking up steam pretty fast.
Mefford agrees to fully cooperate with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI.
Mefford made a deal, as a lot of people do, believing he could help himself with his sentence, to reduce his sentence. That's why people cooperate. But in the federal system, there is no guarantee that they will benefit, they will profit, they will get a lesser sentence. The only one that knows what that sentence is going to be is a federal judge.
Nagin's former ally pulls back the curtain on his time at City Hall with the mayor and says that Ray Nagin accepted bribes from vendors looking for city contracts.
He fleshed out the interactions that they had, the conversations that they had, the trips that Nagin took, the money that he took.
Prosecutors say that when Nagin went from making $400,000 a year in the private sector to $130,000 as mayor, he and his family never changed their lifestyle, and Nagin had to supplement his income to keep up.
They continued to eat at the finest restaurants in town, to buy relatively expensive clothes, have other expenses that we all have, tuition, house payment, and all those other items, which is his choice. The choice he did not have legally to make was to go on the take. And that's what he did to make up the difference.
In addition to several lavish family trips, cell phones, and lawn care services paid for by St. Pierre, the government charges that Nagin then used his son's granite business, Stone Age, as a conduit of corruption. Several years earlier, after a deal he arranged with Home Depot fell through, Nagin, being the company's sole financier, needs to bring in more capital. That's when prosecutor Matt Coman says he turns to Rodney Williams, owner of a local engineering firm who had been trying to get into the city contractor pool to get work during the post-Katrina recovery.
Specifically, Ray Nagin asked for a total of $60,000 in January of 2008. from Rodney Williams. And at that same time, Ray Nagin promised and guaranteed to Rodney Williams, quote, "I will take care of you at City Hall." And in fact, Rodney Williams and his two partners wrote personal checks on the same date, January 31st, 2008, for $20,000, $20,000, $20,000. Delivered those were deposited in Ray Nagin's company named Stone Age LLC, and Ray Nagin in turn signed contract after contract. Rodney Williams went from averaging about $100,000 a year in city work to over $1 million a year after he paid the bribe that Ray Nagin asked for.
Nagin's defense attorney says that the mayor is simply a legal partial owner of Stone Age, and that he did not know Rodney Williams had given money as a so-called investment in the company.
He did nothing wrong. He did nothing illegal. He did nothing improper. Rodney tried to get close to the mayor by going through the sons. So he had no idea about this. The Stone Age things was a total separate entity.
But prosecutor Matt Coleman says that after going through Rodney Williams' money, Nagin had set out to take in even more. This time from Frank Fradella, CEO of the construction firm Home Solutions of America, who is trying to set up a huge deal to turn a defunct smokestack power plant in New Orleans into a mixed-use development.
His value with other individuals were his connections with City Hall, namely Ray Nagin. Could he get things approved by City Hall? Those things are very important when it comes to financing large projects. So that's what Frank Fradella
Do I
wanted
need
to
to move
basically
it? I
sell.
don't think so.
And Ray Nagin was available. He was for sale. And he asked for that $100,000 from Frank Fradella.
In order to conceal the payment,
Alexa, what time is it?
brings in an associate from New Jersey
I don't know
to
that.
transfer $50,000 from his
Alexa, what time is it?
Stone Age company.
The time
In
is
addition to the
11:52
$50,000,
a.m.
prosecutors say Fradella shipped another $52,000 worth of free granite to Stone Age. But Robert Jenkins says Fradella cannot be trusted.
Frank Fradella is a con man, and you can see that throughout his history, that he is a con man. He has convictions throughout other jurisdictions, and at the time when he had to say that, he was already caught, and he was about to be sentenced in Texas. So the deals worked out that, hey, we'll hold up your sentencing if you cooperate in Louisiana. So what do you think he's going to do? He's going to say whatever is necessary to help him.
Next on American Greed, the feds may have trapped a bunch of rats, but are they telling the truth?
It became a big finger-pointing thing, and in the end, they were all pointing the finger at Ray Nagin.
Es que yo no sé cómo hablarte.
Cariño, te cambié el total by Verizon.
Recibe el Samsung Galaxy A15 5G por nuestra cuenta al cambiarte. TotalByVerizon.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce me.
Which you do you want to be today? At TJ Maxx, you can afford to turn your closet into a place of endless expression. With the quality you deserve, styles you crave, and prices you love.
I'm gonna do what I do.
Maxx, what makes you, you.
Do what I do.
In January 2013, former Mayor Ray Nagin, who has been out of office and living in Texas for 3 years, was charged with 21 counts of corruption. Almost a year later, his trial opens at the federal courthouse in New Orleans. WDSU reporter Travers Mackel covers the case.
So the trial was arguably the biggest trial in the history of New Orleans. We have a long history of public corruption in government in Louisiana. There was a lot of anticipation for the trial. I mean, everybody wanted to know what was going on.
At trial, the government lays out a detailed case of corruption spanning several years, bolstered by their star witnesses Greg Mefford, Rodney Williams, and Frank Fradella. But his defense attorney, Robert Jenkins, insists that Nagin is innocent of all charges.
The main defense was that these guys were lying. They were receiving a benefit for their testimony. He didn't do any of these actions. When you go back and look at Fidel, you can look at what he got out of it. He had convictions in other states. You go look at what he got in his first sentence, and then when he got reduction, when he cooperated with the government. So they all got something, they gained something, and when that happens, of course, you have to be suspect of their testimony.
The defense argues that Ray Nagin did not accept bribes, that he did everything in the good faith of rebuilding New Orleans. Nagin takes the stand to defend himself.
It appears that he thought he could charm his way through testimony and probably get one juror to side with him and get a hung jury, or maybe charm them all. They'd say, you know what, look at this guy, charismatic, charming, smart, hit everything. No way he could have done this, not guilty.
But in the end, it's up to the jury to decide who they believe. On February 12, 2014, after an 8-day trial and 6 hours of deliberation, they find Nagin guilty on 20 of 21 counts, including conspiracy, bribery, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and filing false tax returns.
When the verdict came down, he looked stunned. I mean, I don't think he was prepared at all for a guilty verdict.
Nagin becomes the first ever mayor of New Orleans to be convicted on federal corruption charges.
Well, we were devastated. We didn't think that they would come back to be guilty on the testimony of a convicted felon, Frank Fidela, Greg Mefford. Nobody came into the trial against Mr. Nagin that had what we call clean hands. All these people had something to gain.
After testifying against Nagin, Greg Mefford receives a reduced 2.5-year sentence. Rodney Williams and Frank Fidela both get 1-year sentences. And Mark St. Pierre's 17-year sentence is later reduced to 5 years after he also agrees to cooperate. 5 months later, it's Ray Nagin's turn to learn his fate as he enters the federal courthouse once again.
Still maintain your innocence. Absolutely.
Nagin is facing 15 to 20 years. Judge Helen Berrigan decides to go below the recommended guidelines and sentences him to 10 years at a federal prison camp. In this, his only post-conviction interview, done just after the sentencing with WDSU reporter Travers Mackle, Nagin appears unchanged.
So 10 years in prison, what was going through your mind when the judge read that in court today?
Well, all of this is pretty surreal to me. I still maintain my innocence. We're going to appeal this thing. And, it's just something that's very difficult.
The former mayor says the prosecution presented a false case against him.
Prosecutors were fairly magical in their ability to take something that supposedly happened and paint it as reality when it really didn't happen. I was not aware of any of that stuff. I was not involved in any kind of bribes. And I think my testimony laid that out.
When asked what happened to Ray Nagin, the former mayor says that he crossed the wrong people, though he doesn't name them.
In my opinion, I've been targeted, been smeared, targeted. For some reason, some of the stances that I took after Katrina didn't sit well with some very powerful people. So now I'm paying a price for that.
Attorney Robert Jenkins says Nagin's statements harken back to his infamous Chocolate City speech.
There was a movement basically to, recapture the city and move people to certain areas and make places like green space. And he wasn't going to do that. He fought that. He fought to bring everybody. And that made him a target.
But lead prosecutor Matt Coman says the evidence is what convicted Ray Nagin, and there are no other conspiracies at work.
Many times the mayor, when he was ever questioned, would typically, one, deny any knowledge, obviously deny any culpability or responsibility for his own actions, and then thirdly would offer up some abstract motivation by unknown forces. He did so in a book, he did so in that interview, he actually made reference to that during his trial testimony, but to date, as we sit here, I'm still waiting to hear exactly what he's talking about.
I think what a lot of people still hate him for is that he seems arrogant and like he maintains this facade of I'm being targeted, and then he never says, well, look, maybe I made some, at least maybe I made some errors in judgment, or I shouldn't have done this. I didn't think I was doing something crooked, but maybe I shouldn't have been.
I can't sorry.
Home Depot, whatever. Just tell us something, and I think people don't forgive him for not. Like, I feel like if he came out and gave a really heartfelt, abject apology, people might not even need to see him go to prison. But they feel like this guy still hasn't learned.
Now the city of New Orleans is finally gaining some traction. Some call it a renaissance, while others see continuing injustices and social issues that faced most major cities. And while the soul of the Crescent City may have been badly hurt by the tragedy of Katrina, its essence survives.
We still have some of the greatest people in the world. We still have the best food in the country. Our music is continuing to innovate and reach new heights.